Hey team, I got a bit distracted playing the guitar. This is pretty common. I feel like I've got plenty of time, and I try try and do all sorts of things, like work out a new loop arrangement while setting up live streaming and all that sort of stuff. So we're starting a couple of minutes late, but welcome. Thanks for being here. As I've kind of done the past few weeks, I've just kind of given us a topic to work from. But again, feel free to jump in with your questions or comments. If you're watching a delayed version of this, feel free to, jump in and say hi. Hey, Matt, how's it going? It is number 30. And I thought I would have learnt to sing by now. No. I feel like I should have some special, maybe it'll be a special live stream anyway, without any crazy planning. But cool. We're gonna jump into one question that I got asked during the week, and I wanted to do it here because I'm fresh in the middle of learning a new song that I really want to loop. It's very, very cool. Hey, Chomley. In fact, Matt, we were talking about this. This is Resolution by Matt Corby, and there's so many nice parts to this song, and I really hope that at some stage, with a lot of vocal practice, I can do it justice. But it's become quite a lot of vocal practice and quite a lot of guitar practice because to get any of the individual parts, I feel like I'm pretty good. I can sit there and but then to sing nicely over that is is becoming interesting whilst looping those parts while I'm singing, and getting it all to lock in, with the fact that the start of the song with the rhythm is just that, so it's quite sparse. So it really requires me to be like listening and locking in nice and tight, or I'm going to record some really triplets, some really interesting parts. So but I had a question. I'm just going to find it so I get it right. This is David Ramirez. Thanks, man. Asked recently, like, when you loop, do you transcribe all the parts on paper in some fashion or just do it by memory? And mostly it's in my head, and then I really do map a lot of it out in my head, and then I'm already thinking what could go on what track, what could be what section. And so for the rhythm for this, it's great. Like, I can have that on its own section. I think that's going to help me lock in. But I started playing. This is what I've been doing. This is why we're starting late today. Is okay. I put a little rhythm in, and then I've got to get. So just to answer the question, because I know I get excited and go off track and all sorts of things. What I basically do is I look at the parts that can loop, and so in the verse. There's one line, that line repeats, there's a change in the third line of the verse, and then the fourth line is the first and third. So I'm kind of stuck. The third line, I'm like, I could sing over it, and that would make it a shorter loop, but nah, it's not that great. So that's going to be a whole loop. I have to do a whole verse. So which would be? That's line 1, 2, repeats. This is the change for line 3. And then 4 back again. And there's two options on line 4. Sometimes it just stays there, and sometimes it has on the second half. So I was like, I can get away with choosing either of those, will be fine. I'm gonna just probably stick with keeping it open. So so then, okay, that's like a really long loop. I'm gonna be singing at that point as well. So with not a strong groove, to later in the song we get this, and a thicker groove building up. So I'm like, cool, I can overdub that. But when I get to the chorus, then the chorus is nicely a repeating line. And it's a C chord with these triplets over them. So again, I'm gonna overdub this and loop it. How it's all going to come together, honestly, I'm still figuring this out, but I wanted to do it because I feel like this answers your question best, David, on how I put it together. Is I literally have these little chunks of things that, okay, cool, I've got the verse. I think it has to be the whole verse. Here's like one chunk, so that's going to be one loop. I now have 3 loop channels. Hey, so I can do things that I couldn't do before very well. In saying that, with the Voice Live 3, this arrangement that I'll end up with is still totally an option, and what you do is do the switch between C, loop C, and loop B, with A still going. So so that's kind of how it's going to go. But let's just get into the timing, and track 3 would then be because it's the same repeating. I can just record that. And then I would probably overdub the bass under it, so we'll get I'm probably going to put more of a groove underneath it, so I'm just going to build that in now, because we're experimenting live with new loop tracks and putting it all together. Okay, so that's going to be track 3, if you like, and that's the chorus. You'll be my resolution. Oh yeah. Characters of no illusion. Well, you'll be my resolution. And it's gonna be fun getting that in time as well. With so the verses. But the biggest challenge for me is going to be locking in really nicely to the timing, and then the verses are going to be. Oh, hey, there's already. Oh, I probably recorded it already from before. Let's just put that down. Hey. So then I would overdub over that. So but now fundamentally we've got the different the different parts. And yeah, thanks, Matt. The funniest part for me is, I think, like, when I'm not singing, I can hear that pretty well, and I feel like I'll be pretty good. I'll be reasonably tight and locking in. When I'm singing as well, and especially in a venue, if it's noisy, if I don't have great fallback, or I'm not using in-ears, it could be a really, really, really challenging setup. And I may, to get around it as well, what I may do for the rhythm is just put down that, I've talked about this before, put down a muted strum. So instead of, I might put down first something like that, just to have me feel like I'm like, okay, cool, I can hear what's going on. So shall we'll demo and see what works, because this is definitely an experiment for me anyway. I may still end up with a click in my ears anyway. I've been this is quite an exception. This is like not something I would use for general pub tunes because it's quite epic for my focus. And maybe after time of performing it, I'll be like, hey, it's easy, but it's kind of complicated. So yeah, I looked at some of the options of mapping out timings and even bars and things like that as well, and having a click or a rhythm track out of a different channel into headphones, and even if it's just something I turn off after I've locked into that initial groove, we will see. So but yeah, if you we'll have a cheats version. So the tune, and I'm working out the RC300 pedal as we go as well. So I think what I have to do sneakily is stop that groove briefly if I've already recorded track 2, so it starts in time. Let's see. Oh. Now I missed out the groove. We'll see. Giving up this all that's on me. And I can overdub. Call it out like a family. Instead I bide my time, get away. Till the rubber meets the road. You said don't lie, so I made the truth. Seemed like a lie to even you. Control your feet, it's clear, but you do not know where you're going to. So don't you worry. Oh, okay, and then I have to do a stop. So there we go, learning. How can I do this? You'll be my resolution. Okay, that's the part 3 that we recorded. Characters are no illusion. Will you be my resolution? And then, yeah, so fun games. So there you go. Something a little bit interesting for you for tonight's session. Cheers, man. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the suggestion, Matt. Because that first verse is so long, I think I'm gonna end up with little wavering timing on it. But yeah, it's interesting. So just to go back to David, your question, because I wanted to go through it, is I literally map out in my head when I'm looking at a song. I'm like, how much does the rhythm change? Can I leave like this song? I can leave this here through the whole thing. No worries. And then later add in the 4 to the floor, but I don't want it at the start because there's something so tasty about that kind of space that's created in it. So that's cool. I can leave that in. I can add something on top of it. No worries. When I looked at the verse, that I really need to do the whole verse, or I want to do the whole verse because, hey Glenn, thanks man. Because that third line, control your feelings clear, is going to sound interesting if I go, control your feelings clear. It still works, but there's a tastiness that I like. So I think I'm doing a long version with the looping, but time and me experimenting will play out how it actually ends up. The other thing I could look at with this is that third line of the verse is the same as the chorus. So, well, not quite. I tell a lie because that goes to the C. You'll be my resolution. Characters are no illusion. So, and that line is, again, just something I've learned, and I put it in with that melody. When I'm looping, I think I will leave it out and loop it. So I'll just play, you'll be my resolution. And characters are, and I'll add in the, so there you go. There's kind of kicking off tonight with a bit of just basically inside my head pulling things apart. There was one, actually I meant to dive into it a while back, was Smooth by Santana and Rob Thomas, that's got a few interesting things. So maybe we'll do that on another video. Maybe I'll work on a version, but it's kind of it's just an interesting song with the chords. There's a few things that really work for you, and then there's a couple of little curveballs in it. So for looping, so maybe we will dive into that on a future video. But if anyone has questions, obviously fire them in. I wanted to open up from tonight's thing, like releasing, just about a chat about releasing content, and I don't need those on, to be honest, because you can still hear me, and now I don't need to hear any loops or other things, and it's hot. It's coming into summer in the mighty New Zealand. So good times, beaches, swims. Sorry to all of you tuning in from the UK. So, new tune. It's Resolution by Matt Corby. Super cool. His vocal is stunning. Highly recommend going and having a listening to Miracle Love as well. It's one of my favorites at the moment. Yeah, just good stuff. So releasing content. I know there's a bunch of you that we all do different things in some level. And to be honest, we all kind of want to express ourselves in different levels and ways. Also, so it's been something I'm really noticing recently, because my journey with music has been, now I feel like it's quite a long one, from when I first started with the guitar at 14 and singing badly in school choirs, and learning bad habits, learning new habits, kind of taking time to break and adjust them, and then in the midst of that still performing and recording. And I think back to the first album I put out, and it's like there's some cool stuff in there, but me now, like 10 years on or something, I would probably go back and be like, should we do another take of that? but at the time that was as good as I was, and it was an expression of me that it's out there now, and it's floating around. But I think the conversation I thought would be worth having in terms of releasing content is it's like I find it easy to get stuck on not releasing anything because it wasn't perfect. And something shifted in me probably a couple of years back, even when I started vlogging on the channel. I started taking my GoPro and literally going to the dairy on a longboard and trying to be creative with shots. And because it wasn't about my voice, and it was like, yeah, I made that, like it's just day-to-day life. I wasn't concerned about being judged as a filmmaker because I wear the like musician hat, right? But it really allowed me freedom to learn and make mistakes. And I've released some stuff that from a film perspective, it's terrible. And I notice it really quickly now, like, not saying that I do this perfectly by any sense, but color grading and color changes between shots. And I had a nightmare video I released recently where I spent way too long being frustrated with that color, trying to get colors matching. I was quick and lazy in various different shots of just being like, just going to chuck the camera on auto and film. And then it was like, how do I make this match color-wise so it looks like you're watching the same thing? But I got to the point where it's like, just get it out. Like, it's done, it's good, it's fine. Like, I notice things, but not everyone's sitting there judging it. And yeah, I think it's like making it, completing it, and just being like, here it is. Even if it's terrible, this is what I did. Merry Christmas, world. Because you get feedback, and I also think there's a classic. Sorry, there's much chat. I'll say hi in a sec. There's a video on my channel that I recorded with Mike McCarthy. Some of you probably have seen it. Called How to Get a Great Sound from Your Home Studio, Vocal Sound from Your Home Studio. And Mike is a legend. He's awesome. But in that instance, my audio failed, and I tried so hard to get some sort of listenable audio. But there's comments on that video being like, this sounds like it was recorded through a potato. True comment. And I kind of agree, to be honest. It kind of does sound like it was recorded through a potato. But the flip side of that is I've also got a lot of comments from people on that saying like, thanks, this helped me so much. Like Mike's knowledge and I guess the time that we put in to share it in terms of setting up their vocal studio. And I think sometimes with performing and editing and putting things out there, people just appreciate you being able to watch you and hear like, hey, this is a version we did. Maybe we're mucking around at home. Like a good friend of mine literally gets his phone camera and sticks it somewhere. It's usually like balanced against mugs and whatever happens to be around, and just sings. And is it perfect? Like, absolutely not. Sometimes they're not even fully in frame of the shot, but it's like, here's a new song we've been working on. It goes up on social and it gets shared, and there's a lot of love from that, just sharing our gift and our enjoyment in doing something. So whether it's a 15-second Instagram story of just being like, here's something I'm working on. This is also a reminder for me of being like, oh, okay, cool. Just share some stuff. I have good days, I have bad days. And yeah, while like obviously there's a certain amount of stuff I'm like, I'm working on things, kind of like willing to be working on things as I go. So comments. Hi everybody. Hey Grimsh, good morning. Hey team. Yeah, perfect gets in the way of good. Chomley, fully. I mean, I think there's a balance to, yeah, if you're getting stuck releasing stuff, or you're like, oh, I feel like I can't share anything. It's like, maybe on a lot of these platforms, my thing really now is like, just share it. You can delete it later. Like, it's, you control your account. So, and it's like, you can get rid of it. If you really are like, nah, but feel into it too. You want to kind of, I think for me, it's a balance of feeling good about like, hey, here's a thing I did. And also the balance of being like, could I do it better if I spent another 2 whole days filming? And yeah, maybe, but it's pretty decent. So, cool. Grimsh, quick question. When I got the RC30, it was set to tap once, record, tap another time, stop recording, and starting the recording for second time straight away. Change that to just stop recording and tap another time to start recording. How are you handling this? For me, it's speed versus getting it. I am absolutely confused by that, Grimch. Sorry, man. What? I'm not sure what your question is. There. Hey, George. Welcome to Tuesday night in New Zealand. From Utah. Yeah, Grimch, can you word it differently? Maybe I'm just a little confused. Yeah, what you're asking. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Matt. Yeah, like honestly, your videos are great, man, and I love the I love the time that you have spent as well in terms of understanding color grading and like doing the whole filmmaking process, audio, everything. You've spent an amazing amount of time, and it comes through. It's awesome. But I do like that you did this for your last series of videos. They're great. I love it. It's like nobody seemed to notice. But I mean, I think there's a balance. Like you've got to also do what fulfills you. And I feel like a lot of the videos I make, I play around like when I was doing, I haven't done one for a long time, but when I was doing the Thursday tech tips, I loved creating all the intros, different, like just being like, what gear have I got out today? How could I create something different? It's like, well, yeah, I think it was possibly more for me than for everyone watching it. I enjoyed making it and, playing around as a filmmaker. Glenn, struggling to set up your shortcut on VL3 to use hit button as exit. Not the hit button, the step button. So Glenn, you can use the step button, but you lose the step button, or you can use an external, like the switch 3 or the switch 6. So yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting one for that, but yeah, unfortunately you'll lose the step button. And so what I did on the Voice Live 3 with the step button gone is I started saving my presets, so I could just go up a preset or down a preset, rather than using the step button to change if I wanted different tones or settings during a song. So yeah, that's but sadly I don't believe you can map it to the hit button. It's in setup rather than the vocal layer button mapping. Yeah. Right. Yeah, hit me up with questions if you have them. If you've just joined, welcome to another Ask Me Anything, number 30. And yeah, I'm not sure if we're supposed to have anything magical planned for number 30, but that's pretty cool. Been doing these since we started in lockdown. Not long after, maybe a couple of weeks into lockdown. might have even been like the first or second week. And they have evolved as well through this process. And seeing as we're speaking on the same thing, like releasing content, man, I judged myself hard on doing some of these live sessions, being like, hi everybody, and just like on whatever day wanting to be awesome all the time. Damn it. but like every week is different, and every day, vocally, playing wise, whatever's going on in my life, I'm gonna turn up as a slightly different human being. So seeing as we're talking about judging and ourselves and releasing content, then this is it. And tonight as well, I was like, you know what? Like I've been playing around with OBS because we've been doing some live streaming on Facebook and Twitch and playing around with that. And I was like, I think it might be time that I switch the setup again for YouTube to run through OBS and have a few little changes, and it might make it look 5% nicer. I don't think that will affect the information coming through to you, but it'll make me happy that I like tweaked something just a little bit to be like, hey, it looks nicer or something. So there might be some experiment happening for Ask Me Anything number 31. We'll see. Matt, the step button. Is it my accent? The step button. How do you say step in the UK? Hello, I have a step button. Was that better? That was my terrible UK accent. Now I'm just going to get myself in total trouble. Cheers, Glenn. All good, man. Appreciate you being here. And like honestly, I enjoy being able to contribute like these things, because I know how many times sometimes, especially when there's one thing that you just want to solve, I've spent hours. Like Google works, okay, it works, but sometimes it's just like the insight or input from someone else when you can like basically ring someone, like I did for the RC300 video. I'm like, hey Matt, how does this work? So speaking of which, this week I should get the little control pedals that I ordered, which means that on the RC300, one of the things I actually want to do, especially after demoing and testing this song out tonight, is assign a stop track 2, play track 3, literally what is in the Voice Live 3, and stop track 3, play track 2, so that I can do that really, really seamlessly. But we'll have a play with some options, and I have a feeling that I'm going to be having those controls assigned to different things and different memory settings on the RC300, so that, for example, like memory setting 10, I know that, okay, my control buttons switch between these tracks. Memory setting 11, I know that my control button starts track 1 and 2 together, or 1 and 3, or some of those different things. So I'm going to be playing around with it a little bit. But yeah, okay. Crimpsh, you're nearly back. Factory settings on the RC30. This could test my knowledge. I feel like there should be more to your questions. No, I'll give you time to write and yeah, get into it. If you're on, what are some tunes I should be looking at? Nice, man. I meant to message you because we were going to catch up with the Switch 6, Switch 3, or Switch 6 for the Voice Live 3. The sad news is, and this could be totally solved with an update. TC Helicon, hello. But the sad fact is they only allow you to map their one button looper. So you can do anything you want with track A. You can't access track B. Unless it's changed and there's an update I'm unaware of. But basically you can map, say the Switch 6, you can map to one button looper. You can map to a loop trigger that has track A on it. You can map the loop triggers to track B, but you can't access recording track B from the one button looper. And then you can map an arrays all. But yeah, you're limited to, and a stop and arrays. You're limited to, sadly, track A. So it's like back to having an RC3 or the single pedal ditto or that sort of thing. You can map whether your guitar or voice or that sort of thing's going into it as well. But unfortunately, software wise, they would be able to update that in their system, but that's the best response. I feel like we should send this to TC Helicon. Be like, hey, a simple software could make this infinitely more valuable to everybody that uses it. What do you reckon? Like, I actually might send a message because I have been chatting with one of the developer guys. So I'm like sneakily leans over and screenshots the messages. Say Matt said. So yeah, there's unfortunately without going into the looper screen at some point you can't access track B. I'd be delighted to be corrected on that, but that's kind of as far as we've got to so far with that. Just when you scroll through the button mapping options, there's not an option. Yeah. So Glenn, drum rhythm on guitar percussion. There's a couple. I mean, it varies song to song, to be honest. But then I did a really mellow version of. I'm trying to think what groove I ended up with. A really mellow version of Moves Like Jagger this last weekend. Where did we do it? I think it was just like, well, I don't know. What was my? I mean, I have some standard things that I do for sure, but then it definitely just depends a little bit on the song, pretty much. If I mean, the thing that I probably go to the most, to be honest, if I'm doing much more of a dance vibe, is the 4 to the floor under things, even if it's subtle. So even if you start with a something like that, I sometimes kind of override it later in the song, just with putting 4 to the floor, not crazily, but underneath everything to like build the track and just have that kind of like energy underneath things. So yeah, okay, Grimsh, change factory settings, change that to tap once, start record, tap another time, stop record and play loop, and then another tap to start second layer. Yeah, Grimsh, it makes sense. I'm not sure what your question is. You've got the option to change the settings, like from hitting record to whether it overdubs or whether it just plays back, that sort of thing. But I'm not quite sure what your question is. Help me out if you're clear on it. All right, okay. This is another one I'm a bit torn on because, and I think on the RC300 I'll have different memories set for different things. Although in saying that, if I want to move on to the next track, then it's reasonably easy to do. I'm in the habit of not overdubbing straight away. So, and mostly I want to get that loop really clean and clear. And sometimes just in the process of overdubbing, and if you're stopping playing what you're doing, you can get some noise. And if you're not overdubbing, or if you're changing, you get extra noise and things in the track. So my default is to not automatically overdub, because I can hit it again and I'm overdubbing. Although in terms of speed of setting things up and a few different things, I'll change it. And yeah, okay. And on the Voice Live 3, you have the option to, depending on which button you hit after recording, you're going to go straight into overdub or not. So that's a pretty tidy option to go for. But yeah, pros and cons. I think it depends how. It really depends on what you. I'm just going to scroll back up to your original. Change that to just stop recording. I think it depends how you're wanting to loop things. I don't know that I have a good answer for you, to be honest. I think my kind of go-to for this would be to test out doing both. If you're used to one, switch back and try and switch back for like a few days of playing around with it, and then back to the other. There's definitely pros and cons of both, but it's going to depend on what you're doing. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, Matt's just said the opposite of what I do as a default, where he goes straight into overdubbing, which is awesome. So again, I think it's like part of it will be what you get used to. There's a beautiful thing of going straight into overdubbing, and you can put down the next part. It speeds up what you're recording, and I think for me it would depend on tracks. But as I'm saying that as well, I'm like, if I start recording the next part, the other one just goes into play mode and that as well. So yeah, I don't know if there's any perfect answer. It's just finding what probably works for you. Was that a great answer to your question? No, I appreciate it, Grimch. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm like, I don't have a like reason for either. I think they both have some pros and cons. So yeah. So all good times, good fun. I am gonna say ciao. I'm actually going to play a real show tonight to real humans in a little bar in Ponsonby. So which will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And but it means I have to pack up this stuff and probably have some food and go and sing and play some tunes, create a few little grooves. Still, I was very tempted to take the RC300 tonight but I think next week. I'm still doing shows on the Voice Live 3 at the moment, and fingers crossed it all works nicely for me. Yeah, Grimps, just following up on that. I think if you go into the overdub straight away, if you're going to be building tracks, it makes it much easier. There's less button tapping to go on, and you'll get used to, like my comment about making noises, different sounds, and things like that at the end of loops while you're still overdubbing. You'll soon hear it and get used to either playing and recording so that you don't, or being more aware of it. Thanks, Shomley. But I think it's just really what you prefer. The flip side of not going into an overdub for me is that I still play through the last note. So when the start of the loop is here and the other end finishes, I'm actually playing the same thing on either end, so that theoretically it should be a really nice match. Rather than if you're, what's an example I can do? Let's just get rid of these. So just as an example with this, seeing as we're going to go back to the same little tune. If I'm playing and I loop, because at both ends I'm actually still playing the same thing, this is not going to overdub, then I should get a really nice transition when it loops around, which you can hear that first note just slides off a little bit. The if and then I could overdub. Where's that first one? Just to, if we're adding in a bass, for example, if I try to, now let's test this out if I can get this happening. This is where I should be asking Matt how I go straight into. I might trying to remember where it is to go in straight into overdubs. Oh, see, this is the fun of new pedals. But if I was to go straight into and get to that note to do a straight away overdub, it can be a challenge. Oh, we're nearly out of battery, so I'm gonna have to say goodbye anyway. To get to that overdub. Otherwise, you'd record, it would be overdubbing, and then when it came around, you'd do that. So it's less pedal pressing, but you might have to wait that whole bar to get there anyway. Just this is just an example I randomly picked to get there on time. So thanks, team. Thanks for all your love on the videos recently as well. Appreciate you all, and hope you learned something, had fun hanging out together tonight. I had fun. Thanks, and we will see you another time. Cheers. Happy playing, happy looping, happy singing, and send me links to all the new things you're uploading now that you're not worried about if it's good enough or not. See you all another time, maybe next week. Ciao.